Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Food School Smarter, Stronger, Leaner podcast. We are back for another episode of Athletic Edge series, or series of episodes on food school that are dedicated to athletic performance. Specifically, we are focusing on nutrients that are crucial for your athletic pursuits, your athletic performance. Anything has to do with fitness and exercise. But actually, what it means is those nutrients are crucial for all of us, guys. But if you are an athlete, you are specifically susceptible to negative effects of not getting those nutrients that might really compromise your performance, your adaptability to exercise, your improvement in your exercise workout activities. You usually need more of those nutrients to perform well, because exercise, especially intense exercise, it does require more from our body, more nutrients, more recovery, and just different functions for our body to work better. It also, for example, it also puts more load on our immune system, like our body cannot do intense workouts at the same time as prioritizing our immunity. So if you're someone, for example, who never recovers and trains, you are really undermining the work of your immune system. And that's why a lot of endurance athletes, for example, after their season, their competing season, they get sick because immune system gets really weak and it just not performing. Again, you cannot do both at the same time, being super active, super intense with your exercise and workouts, and having a great immune system. The body has to prioritize one system over another. And so if you make yourself run or cycle or swim a lot with, a lot of intensity, then your immune system at that time not going to be prioritized. And if you never recover, then your immune system is never prioritized, and that is a bad news. But hey guys, back to the nutrients, especially important for athletes. Today we are talking about iron. And iron deficiencies are so common among all of the people. And I guess because again, we are eating more processed foods. We are not eating as much variety. A lot of people are trying to be vegan, especially girls, especially millennials, especially next generation who are trying to be advanced in all areas of our lives and be on trend and in trend. For many reasons, iron is not getting consumed. And also because a lot of foods that are rich in iron, they gotta be good quality foods that require cooking, and they're a bit not that approachable as many convenience or snacky kinds of foods. And for all of these reasons, iron is not exactly the nutrient, again, that is easy to eat. I mean, it is easy if you are eating whole foods, if you are eating a variety of animal and plant foods, but it is not easy if you eat just one normal meal a day and, there you're trying to be vegan. That's like disaster. Anyhow, iron, guys, why do we need iron? It is necessary for the metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. It is the major nutrient when it comes to creation of red blood cells. And those red blood cells, they carry oxygen with blood to all of our tissues and cells. And without that oxygen, our mitochondria, for example, energy producing plant of our cells, they're not able to produce energy. So for example, if you're always tired, if you're always fatigued, then not having enough iron in your diet might be an issue. And with iron, guys, also too much might be just as bad as too little. You might be feeling tired and fatigued if you are getting too much. But in most cases, unless you have a specific genetic mutation, our body, and you are not getting your iron all the time from some supplements, because that's very hard for our body to absorb and figure out how much we need and excrete the rest. If you are getting your iron from foods, then your body will adjust its capacity to absorb iron, and so you're not really running in a huge risk of overdosing on iron coming from whole foods. But if you are supplementing with some forms of iron all the time, then you might be consuming too much iron, and that again might be just as bad. If your hair is falling out, then you might be iron deficient, or you might get too much iron. If you are getting sick often, iron deficiency also might be an issue. But the thing with iron, guys, it plays an important role in the function of our immune system. Although it affects on our susceptibility to different infections are complex. So because iron is intrinsic to the function of many enzymes, it helps maximize the effectiveness of many types of different immune cells. So basically our immune system is not working that well without sufficient iron. However, it also promotes the growth of many bacteria that can cause disease. And so the advice is to get as much as you need and not much more. But again, from whole foods, the danger of consuming too much is not really an issue. So you won't be consuming too much iron from whole foods. But if you are relying on supplements a lot, then that might be an issue. Another thing with iron, it is much less absorbed from plant foods. There is not much iron even in any plant food in general. But it is going to be 2-3 times less absorbed from plant foods than from animal foods, because animal produce similar form of iron or heme iron that we humans need. And all the plant sources, they have non-heme iron that can be made into heme iron. But the absorption rate and the amount of we need might be 2-3 times less in that iron that comes from plants. What else? Your thyroid hormones might not be working well. Your thyroid might not be working well with iron deficiency. Your sexual performance might be going down without sufficient iron. Also, you might experience coldness of your feet, of your hands, but also overall coldness when you do not get enough iron. And so iron is very important. It also crucial for development of our central nervous system. That's why, for example, if someone is pregnant or lactating, they need to be getting sufficient amount of iron, or the kid might not develop well. And in childhood also iron is very important. DNA replication and synthesis, a lot of processes iron is involved in. But again, especially your ability to generate energy, our cellular mechanism to make energy requires oxygen. And iron is needed to create cells that carry that oxygen around. And so if you're not getting sufficient iron, then there's not going to be enough sufficient oxygen generating in your system. And there's not going to be enough oxygen to make energy, as easy as that. And so athlete or not, you do need to get enough iron, but especially if you're an athlete, to get that edge, that athletic edge, to take your performance to the next level, you need to supply as much oxygen as you can. But the answer is not to breathe heavily and often, but to get more iron in your system. So now to iron foods. Where can we get that iron? Let's start with the most efficient sources, and those are animal sources. Again, iron is not the same form in plant and animal sources, and it is much less absorbed from plant sources, 2-3 times less. Also depends on the healthiness of your digestive system, of your gut health, for many reasons. And also a lot of iron-rich foods, they contain a lot of anti-nutrients that prevent the absorption of different minerals. So plant sources for iron, as well as as well as for zinc that we talked about yesterday, plant sources are not your best sources for sure. So when it comes to iron, there is one specific superfood, iron superfood, that you need to eat just about 40 or 30 to 60 grams of. If you are a female like me, then closer to 60 grams, so 2 ounces. If you are a male, then about 30 grams should be sufficient of that food. And why there is a difference, between iron for females and males. We females, we lose blood every month during our cycle. If you're not having your cycle, whether you're too young or you are too old for your cycle, then your requirement is closer to that of men. Now, if you are pregnant, you need more iron. If you are lactating, then you need this the same as men, maybe a little bit higher, because you do deliver iron to kids, but you are not menstruating at that time. But anyhow, iron requirements for women in their menstruating age is higher, twice as high as for men. That's why the foods, when I'm going to be saying, we need certain amount of foods, I'm going to be talking about myself. So if you are a female in menstruating age, that is you too. If you are a guy, you need, half of that, maybe a little bit more, just to be on a safe side. So guys, duck liver, that's the superfood I was talking about. For guys, 1 ounce, 30 grams a day will deliver, it actually will deliver some vitamin A, highly absorbable, but also all the iron you need in the most absorbable form. For women, 60 grams. Like whenever I can get my hands on some duck liver pate, and don't confuse it with foie gras, because it's kind of similar, but the ducks are not the same. And the way it's made, the pate, it's not the same. So simple duck liver, not foie gras, liver of a normal duck or goose would give you 100% of your iron requirements. For women, 2 ounces or 60 grams. For guys, 1 ounce or 30 grams. Now, the next inline foods that are rich in iron are different kinds of livers, especially livers of bigger animals like cows or calves or veal liver. So those would have per 5 ounces, 150 grams, about 100% of your requirements. Again, I'm talking about females, so guys need less than that, maybe half, maybe a little bit more than half. So 150 grams, 5 ounces of calf liver will deliver 100% of your iron need. So yesterday was my liver day. Monday in our family is liver day. So I got all my iron from that liver. I actually ate chicken livers, and that is the next in line when it comes to iron. So 150 grams of chicken liver or 5 ounces is about 70% of your requirements for iron. For guys, that's all you need probably. For women, a little bit more. So I usually eat about 8 ounces of liver once a week. So every Monday I eat my chicken liver, and that delivers that amount. 8 ounces will deliver 100% of my requirements for iron. The next kind of foods, oysters and mussels, kind of equally rich in iron, or oysters are also rich in zinc, as we talked about. So 5 ounces of meat of those things, so without the shells, 5 ounces of oysters and mussels, or 150 grams, will deliver about 50% of your iron. But with that gonna come, zinc, B12, there's gonna be phosphorus, there's gonna be, different shellfish has slightly different profile, of course, sometimes a lot different actually. Some copper, mussels that I'm going to be eating today, for example, have this is one of the richest food in B12, just like 8 pieces would give you all you need. It also has quite a good amount of omega-3 fatty acids. I usually eat 10 ounces of muscles when I eat them, and that delivers 100% of my iron. They would deliver a good amount of zinc as well. Again, vitamins. What else? Omega-3 fatty acids. So mussels are amazing. They're also super sustainable, easy to digest, light in calories. So they're good for many reasons. But mussels and oysters, 150 grams of them, or 300 grams, so 10 ounces, will deliver, again, 150 grams, 50%, 300 grams, or 10 ounces, 100% of your iron, highly absorbable. Now, the lean meat, again, as with zinc, the iron is concentrated, but iron is concentrated in lean tissues of animal parts, so fat has none. That's why the leaner you cut, the more iron and zinc also you're gonna get. So beef, duck meat, all those are higher in iron. So 8 ounces will deliver about 30% of your daily need. Other kinds of meat, except for maybe wild game, will deliver less. Like if you're eating dark turkey meat or chicken meat, they will deliver less, but still they will deliver some iron. So again, for beef or duck meat, about 30% in 8 ounces, or 240 grams. And let's get to plants. As I've said, it is 2-3 times less absorbable from plant foods, but here are some of the richest in iron foods, and those are actually beans, especially soya beans. 100 grams of dried soya beans will deliver 88% of your iron. So soya beans high in protein, high in iron, but again, for many different reasons, I wouldn't rely on soy as your main iron source, because it can interrupt your hormones, especially estrogen and testosterone. There is some evidence. It's also not great for people who have any kinds of digestive issues or super sensitive to lectins, to fibers, to plant proteins. So beans in general is not a great idea for those people, or autoimmune conditions, that most of which start in the gut. But for those of you who do eat soya beans, 100 grams of dried soya beans, obviously the products like tofu or miso or tempeh or natto made from soya beans, they might have different absorption rate and different amounts of iron. You need to Google that food specifically. But dried soya beans, 100 grams, 3.5 ounces, 88% of iron. Again, for women, I'm talking about women. Guys need a little bit less, sometimes 2 times less. Lentils, the next one, also quite high, but not as high as soybeans. So we get 38% of your iron in 100 grams of lentils, green and brown lentils. Pretty good, but not as good as soybeans. Let me check again, because I remember that it was a little bit higher, the percentage. Yeah, if we actually get 100, before I looked up 100 grams cooked, so dried lentils, green and brown, will actually deliver 62% of your iron requirements. So 62. For guys, it might be all you need, 100 grams of dried lentils. But again, the absorption rate and the friendliness to our gut is much less when it comes to plants. Now, there are a huge bunch of vegetables that have iron, non-heme iron, plant version of iron, but you need to eat, like a pound of them to get sufficient amount. And those are things like Jerusalem artichoke, arrowhead, or arrowroot. Those of you who are eating those foods, I haven't even tried, for example, arrowhead and arrowroot, because In places where it grows, I never really paid attention to it because, that's not something I was familiar with. For sure, now I'm going to be paying attention more to those foods. So I never tried them. I was either not paying attention or, for example, where I am right now in Russia, we don't grow that vegetable. And it's not because it's impossible. It's not a part of our culture, right? But if you are, familiar with arrowhead, arrowroot, Jerusalem, artichoke, I did try to those vegetables. If you eat, for example, 8 ounces of them, they would give you about 30%, some 20 to 30% of your iron requirements in 8 to 10 ounces. And then vegetables like beets, Swiss chard, spinach, actually quite a lot of those vegetables. Even a lot of nuts, pistachio, like almonds, macadamia, chestnuts, again, when it comes to vegetables, asparagus, broccoli, different kinds of leaves, and seaweed, dandelion greens, all of those, even potatoes would have some iron. But the amount is really tiny. And again, you would need to eat overall 1.5 pounds of those foods. That's why, in those cases, I like to use my tracker to track my food. So if I'm relying on plant-based sources, that I need to be able to track it. Otherwise, there is no way I'm going to be able to figure that out. But that's why also, guys, I always say that you need to simplify in order to maintain it for life. And so for me, iron is associated with animal foods, with, liver, mussels, oysters, animal foods like beef or dark poultry meat. I try to include in my daily regimen, animal foods, if it's plant foods, then a lot of those, a lot of beans, actually by the way, guys, beans, other kinds of beans, like red kidney beans would have about 30 to 40% of iron requirements in 100 grams of dried beans. So 30 to 40%. Again, not the best digestible form, but still there is some. And that's why, when I'm eating plant-based days, or when I'm having my vegan days, that happens usually 2-3 times a week these days, I would have in my diet for sure some beans, sometimes lentils that are higher, as we talked about, sometimes other kinds of beans. I would have all these other vegetables, Swiss chard and broccoli and maybe Swiss chard that also have some iron. And so overall it accumulates, and I might not be hitting all my numbers, but there is still some good amount. But when I'm not on my vegan days, I'm focusing on shellfish, on organ meats, on darker meats. Eggs would have some iron. Let me actually check for you how much iron one egg has. Probably not too much. I'm, by the way, always using checkyourfood.com because it's an amazing resource. I know the founder and researcher behind all the data, and he does really good work doing all the research. So I'm always using it to track my nutrients. Iron, 6% of your iron in one egg, in egg yolk. So if you're eating whites, there is no iron. So if you're eating, for example, if you eat today 4 eggs, then you're going to getting 24% of your iron there. So, and okay, source too, right? I'm actually going to try only egg yolk omelets, because yolk is where actually most of the nutrition, especially micronutrients, are concentrated. So anyhow, when it comes to iron, another thing, the last piece, it is much better absorbed when eating with foods that are higher in vitamin C, like for example, maybe you're cooking it with some bell peppers or Brussels sprouts or broccoli. Those are quite high in vitamin C. And iron is best absorbed with some sort of acid that can come in the form of actually sauerkraut. So if you like your kimchi or sauerkraut, the acids that bacteria produce, they will help you to absorb iron. And also things like lemon juice, they are quite acidic too. So those will also help you to absorb any foods with vitamin C, a lot of vitamin C would help you to absorb iron. Just remember that if you want to increase absorption of iron, then eat it with some vitamin C food or some acid or some fermented veg. And guys, again, iron is really important for our energy metabolism. You're not getting enough iron, you're not going to be getting enough energy. And if you're not getting enough energy, forget about your athletic pursuits and your life in general, because energy is everything. It's emotions, it's movement, it's achievement, it's everything. It's enthusiasm for life. When you don't have energy, what do you want to do? Like nothing. Lay on your couch and watch Netflix, right? So energy is everything. And iron, most people are deficient in iron. Statistically, most people are deficient in iron. And no wonder nobody has energy for anything. So you need to be consuming iron. Goes great with vitamin C and fermented foods. The best sources are duck liver is the best. Just, 1 tablespoon will give all the iron you need in the best absorbable form, plus vitamin A and a lot of other nutrients. Then the next ones are livers, especially bigger animals. Calf liver, chicken livers is quite a good source too. Then we have shellfish. I like shellfish because it's quite low in calories, but quite high in other nutrients, especially oysters and mussels are great sources of iron. Then we have darker meat of animals, beef and duck meat specifically, but then also there is good amount in turkey and chicken, dark meat, and other like wild game, other meats. When it comes to plant sources, the best are beans, especially soya beans are the highest. Then after that, lentils, green and brown. After that, all other beans. And if you eat, 1.5 pounds of other veggies like Jerusalem artichoke, arrowhead, arrowroot, things like, all kinds of nuts and Swiss chard and seaweed and spinach would have some iron. But again, you need to be eating 1.5 pounds of that to get the iron. And as we talked about, plant sources do not have the best absorbable iron. So as you guys can see, iron is quite important, especially if you are into your looks and you don't want your hair to be falling out, then you need to be eating iron in sufficient amounts. That's another piece of motivation for you to seek out your iron. And, iron is also tricky. Too much can be as bad as too little. So supplements are not perfect solution for sure. Try to get it from foods, because then if it's too much, the body can actually reduce your capacity to absorb it and eliminate the rest. That's it for today, guys. Our iron episode. Today, tune into Instagram, check out my content. At some point, I'm going to be cooking 10 ounces or 300 grams of mussels. That is all the iron I need, and you'll find out what other nutrients mussels are full of. I always cook really easy recipes that require very little cooking skills or ingredients, and they're highly versatile, meaning except for the main ingredient that I emphasize and focus on, the rest you can kind of substitute with other stuff that is available to you. So tune in to my Instagram today, 1000 year young. That's my Instagram, or Angela Shurina. You can find me on Instagram. Check it out. I'm also on TikTok, Food Health Fun, where you can find some highlights. I'm still working on my TikTok content, figuring out how it all works. Anyhow, guys, don't forget to share this episode with one another person who also might be suffering from lack of energy and enthusiasm in life and can't really, summon up some energy to work out and exercise regularly. Share this episode with that person. They might be very well according to statistics, missing iron. Then learn together, practice your iron eating, maybe with some sauerkraut or kimchi that increases absorption of it. Shop together for iron foods, cook together, and learn better together. Together we do everything better. So that's why I share this episode with one other person. And guys, thank you for tuning in. And as usual, till next time, eat better daily.